How does the evidence for the resurrection answer David Hume's objection to miracles?
Good question. David Hume is an empiricist. That means he can be a very reasonable man. He allows reason, but he thinks probably the best evidence is empirical in nature, what we call the scientific method or induction. And the first thing I'd say before I go into the resurrection is that a number of contemporary scholars, including one agnostic who goes after Hume and wrote a book on Hume's failure to make a good argument. In fact, the title of the book is The Abject Failure. I mean, the outstandingly poor failure of Hume. And this person's at least an agnostic philosopher. Here's one problem. Hume doesn't do induction the right way. He was a librarian at University of Edinburgh in the mid-1700s. Now, when he says in part 1, miracles are reported so unanimously that the evidence against them it's a done deal. Nobody's seen a miracle. The first question on induction is, who is he reporting? Who is he reporting? Is it his buddies in the pub that are sharing a pint? I mean, is that who he's reporting? Because everybody knows in 1700s, 1800s, 1900s, or 2000s, if you expand your survey just a little bit, if you put an ad somewhere in a newspaper, if you've seen a miracle, contact me. If you go to the corner where dialogue is possible, like in London, and you say, if you've seen a miracle, contact me, you can only protect against miracle reports if you have a couple buddies having a pint in the pub, and they all agree with you because they're agnostics. Okay, but at the minute you expand it, you will get miracle cases. You go, well, yeah, but they're not justified. Well, okay. Number one, critical scholars today, Jesus Seminar members, agnostics, a lot of critics today think that Jesus definitely was a healer, was definitely a healer. They think the evidence is really good. Okay, so that you're not going to explain those away. The critics already grant them. Okay, second example. The guys on the street or who answer your newspaper, they're going to say, yeah, my mom had cancer and doctor said she'd be dead in 6 months and that was 11 years ago and she's still alive. We all know those stories. So the point is, induction, Hume either had to use such a small sample of guys who agreed with him, or, I don't think he was lying, or he didn't count anybody who had contrary evidence. But the minute you expand your group, if you're doing induction, you got to do a survey. The minute you expand it, you are going to get miracle stories. So it's untrue. His words are, a firm and inalterable experience opposes miracles. Those are his words. A firm and unalterable experience. It's not like that. You get a lot of miracle reports, and today they're written up in medical journals. Okay, his view of induction is messed up. But if you're talking about early evidence, we've already outlined it. I won't go over it again. We've got creeds from maybe the same year, oral statements that were written down from the same year. Again, Bart Ehrman says 1 to 2 years after the cross. Gerrit Ludeman says 3 maximum. The consensus New Testament view is that they got these within 3 years. That's a consensus critical view. We've got an eyewitness like Paul. Paul interviewed eyewitnesses talking about the facts of the gospel, deity, death, and resurrection. He interviewed Peter, James, the brother of Jesus, and John. We've got some embarrassing testimony, which is an historical standard for truth. One of the criteria you use, because Paul was a skeptic, thought he was doing God a favor to criticize Christians. Peter, the leader of the apostles, yet denied Jesus 3 times. James, the brother of Jesus, apparently didn't believe in his brother during his own lifetime, probably not before Jesus appeared to him. And That's very damaging testimony. Why do you say, in the early church, why do you say that the two leaders in Jerusalem, Peter denied Lord 3 times, James didn't even believe in him, and by the way, in Mark 3, the brothers of Jesus seemed to believe that he was mentally ill. The Greek word means out of his mind, beside himself. That's embarrassing. Paul was a persecutor. Yeah, Paul says, I don't even deserve to be called an apostle. So that's embarrassing testimony. They had to change their view. Whatever you do with Thomas, the doubter, but I think the other three are much stronger. So yeah, if you say there's no evidence, number one, you haven't done no reports, firm and unalterable experience. You got to be a little loose with your induction. But otherwise, the New Testament does have that kind of data that even the atheist New Testament scholars think is very, very early and from trustworthy sources. Again, Bart Ehrman calls this one of the two most trustworthy evidences for the historical Jesus.